25% of all the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. When this passage is closed, fuel prices skyrocket across the globe. And now, the United States and Iran are exchanging direct attacks in this strategic region, putting at risk not only a fragile ceasefire, but the entire global economy. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway only 34 kilometers wide that separates Iran from the Persian Gulf. Around 21 million barrels of oil pass through it every day, equivalent to 1/5 of the world's total energy production. When this route is threatened, the effects are immediately felt at gas stations in Brazil, Europe, Asia, and practically every country in the world. The current tension began when President Donald Trump announced what he called Project Freedom, a military operation to escort commercial ships through the strait. The stated objective was to remove vessels trapped in the region due to the conflict and restore normal navigation. For this mission, 15,000 American troops were deployed, according to the United States Central Command. Iran's response was immediate and forceful. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard released a map showing exactly which area of the Strait of Hormuz it considers to be under its control. This zone, marked between two red lines, covers the narrowest part of the passage, precisely where control is most critical. The Iranian military command made it clear any American force attempting to enter the strait would be considered a threat and would face retaliation, and the threats became reality. According to the United States Central Command, American forces destroyed 6 small Iranian vessels after Iran launched multiple cruise missiles, drones, and small boats against U.S. Navy ships and commercial vessels being protected by American forces. The attacks were carried out using combat helicopters, including Apache and Seahawk models. On the Iranian side, the version is different. Iranian state media reported that 2 Iranian missiles struck an American warship near the Iranian city of Jask, located close to the entrance of the strait. According to this account, the American ship ignored warnings issued by the Iranian regime and attempted to enter the zone considered under Iranian control. Even after being hit, the ship reportedly managed to retreat. The United States Central Command categorically denies that any American ship was struck. This contradiction in narratives is typical in conflicts of this nature, where each side presents its own version of events to justify its actions and maintain the morale of its forces. What makes this situation even more concerning is the immediate economic impact. Today, no vessel was able to cross the Strait of Hormuz. This means that millions of barrels of oil that should be heading to refineries around the world are simply not reaching their destinations. The result is an automatic increase in oil prices on international markets, which is quickly reflected in fuel prices for the final consumer. To understand the strategic importance of this region, it is important to know that the Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. Not only oil tankers pass through this route, but also cargo ships transporting manufactured goods, food, and raw materials. The closure of this route forces vessels to seek much longer and more expensive alternative paths, increasing the price of practically everything we consume. The head of the Iranian military was emphatic in declaring that any approach by American aircraft carriers in the strait would be met with force. He stated that the American aircraft carriers believed they could move closer, but Iran's response was immediate. Iran mobilized cruise missiles and combat drones, reinforcing that it considers regional security a non-negotiable priority. Meanwhile, peace negotiations continue, mediated by Pakistan. Iran drafted a 14-point proposal that includes the withdrawal of American forces from the Middle East, the end of the naval blockade on Iranian ports, the suspension of sanctions, and the cessation of attacks on all fronts, including Lebanon. One of the most controversial demands is that Iran's nuclear program should only be discussed at a later stage, something the United States considers unacceptable. The spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry criticized what he called the exaggerated demands of the United States and blamed Washington for the slow pace of diplomacy. This position reflects the complexity of the negotiations, where each side has demands that the other considers unacceptable. A symbolic gesture of goodwill took place when the American military handed over to the Pakistani government 22 crew members of an Iranian ship intercepted by the U.S. Navy last month. This crew will later be transferred to Iran. The Pakistani government described this action as rare and a sign of building trust between both sides. The current situation places the entire world in a delicate position. On one hand, the United States argues that it is acting as a defensive force, creating a strong layer of protection so commercial ships can continue operating through the Persian Gulf. On the other hand, Iran considers any American military presence in the region to be a provocation and a threat to its sovereignty. What is at stake goes far beyond a regional dispute. The Strait of Hormuz is considered one of the most important choke points in global trade. Its strategic importance is comparable to the Suez Canal or the Panama Canal. Any prolonged disruption to traffic in this region has the potential to destabilize the global economy. Military commanders on both sides avoid clearly stating whether the ceasefire is still in effect or has been permanently broken. This ambiguity is intentional, as it allows both sides to maintain their positions without escalating the conflict to a level that would become impossible to control. The current situation shows how regional conflicts can have almost immediate global consequences. Every attack, every threat, every military movement in the Strait of Hormuz immediately reverberates through global financial markets and affects the fuel prices we pay at gas stations. The question that remains is whether diplomacy will be able to prevail over military force. Negotiations continue, but actions on the ground show that both sides are prepared to use force if necessary. The world watches and hopes that reason will prevail, because the cost of an open conflict in this region would be paid by all of us in the form of higher energy prices and an even more unstable global economy. This situation in the Strait of Hormuz is a reminder of how our globalized economy depends on specific trade routes and how conflicts in seemingly distant regions can directly affect our daily lives.